Welcome to the good, the bad, and the ugly. Where the mighty are fallen, the good get ugly, and there's no such thing as bad publicity.
As much cash as you can.
On the show this time, 5 thick-skinned power brokers who know how to tough it out at the top. The man with the wayward comb-over certainly hasn't won and lost fortunes by worrying about being Mr. Nice Guy. His aggressive entrepreneurial style has helped him build a skyscraper empire with casinos, hotels, office towers and apartment blocks across America. His excessive borrowings to keep building during the recession of the late 80s left the Donald a multi-billion-dollar debt that forced his company into bankruptcy in 2004. Still, Donald's ownership of more than 18 million square feet of prime Manhattan real estate must provide more than a little comfort. And of course, there's his television career, which began in 2004 with The Apprentice. As executive producer and presenter of the reality TV show, Donald played mentor and tormentor to 16 overachievers vying for a one-year gig as president of one of his businesses with a salary of $250,000. Famous for his catchphrase, "You're fired," the ball-breaking billionaire doesn't suffer fools gladly when it comes to doing business. But in his capacity as co-owner of the Miss Universe organization, he has been known to turn the other cheek. In 2006, after reports surfaced that 20-year-old Miss USA Tara Conner had been seen drinking heavily and partying in New York, the eyes of America were upon him. Widely expected to fire Tara for bringing the esteemed organization into disrepute, he called a press conference.
I've just met for a pretty long period of time with Tara. We talked about a lot of things. And to be honest, I expected fairly routinely that we would be terminating Tara as Miss USA.
Clearly, there was something about what Tara had to say that changed his mind.
After speaking to her, I saw not only a beautiful young woman, that was obvious. I saw somebody that had a good heart, that really, really tried. She left a small town in Kentucky, and she was telling me that she got caught up in the whirlwind that's New York, that we all know is New York. I believe, after speaking with Tara, I believe that she can do a tremendous service to young people.
The middle-aged real estate developer had turned knight in shining armor.
And you'll never know how much I appreciate Mr. Trump for saving me on this one. It truly takes someone with a wonderful heart, a heart of gold, and a blessed soul to take something that he doesn't have to keep me around. You heard about the other things he could have said, you know, you're fired, and I think that's what everyone expected, especially me. But he's a very, very compassionate person, and obviously I've learned that today.
Not everyone was so bowled over by his magnanimity. In fact, talk show host Rosie O'Donnell was so unimpressed with his soft-on approach to the situation, she labelled him a snake oil salesman. No doubt he'd been called worse things by his first wife, Ivana, who since their divorce in 1993 has gone on to become a flamboyant media personality in her own right. Ivana's gravity-defying beehive and penchant for beauty therapy have seen her mercilessly parodied in comedy shows. But just like her ex-husband, she takes all the fun poking with a pinch of salt. Donald married the current Mrs. Trump, Melania Knauss, in 2005. The following year, she gave birth to his 5th child, Baron William. Meanwhile, he'd already put some of his older children to work, rebuilding the Trump empire.
My children have been really good. They're very smart, and they're really good at real estate, and I'm very happy about that. Who would have known?
Yeah, he's taught me everything I know. Again, I didn't have a conventional father-son relationship with my father growing up. We didn't go play ball. I followed him around job sites and real estate and watching him do these things. So, now working, it's really just been the culmination of all of that expertise and knowledge, and getting to work with him hand in hand now has just been an amazing experience.
Donald Trump Jr.'s reward was planning the construction of the Trump International Hotel and Tower in Dubai, in collaboration with one of the world's largest real estate developers, Nakheel. To get everyone excited, Donald invited a host of stars to one of his famous extravagant parties in Bel Air in August 2008.
Well, we're throwing it really to celebrate the great success of what we're doing in Dubai. It's been an amazing success. Everybody's talking about it, everybody's buying, and it's just been a lot of fun.
While everyone else was thinking about pulling in their belts in response to the financial crisis, Donald was blithely spending up big.
Well, I've been buying a lot of things, I think very cheaply, but we'll see. Maybe in a year from now I'll tell you I didn't make such a good deal. But I've been buying, and I just started buying, actually. And there are a lot of great opportunities.
Unfortunately, however, Donald's love of a good bargain got the better of his good judgment once again. And in February 2009, Trump Entertainment Resorts filed for bankruptcy. One power player who has worked out that there's only one kind of publicity is Madonna. The headline hogging began early in the career of the pop goddess, who raised the hackles of the Vatican by intertwining religious symbolism with sexual themes way back in the 1980s. Since then, there's been a book called Sex, an album called Erotica, and countless controversial stunts that have ensured her legacy as an eyebrow raiser. She's also been labelled the Queen of Reinvention, thanks to her incredible talent for surfing new trends and constantly revamping her image.
Back in the beginning of the 80s, when she was very first starting, you know, she was favoured for her tutus, little lace gloves, Wayfarer glasses.
Then came the Blonde Ambition Tour and the collaboration with Jean-Paul Gaultier.
Probably her most iconic clothing moment is the conical bra, the flesh tone with the black wide leg pants.
The 90s brought with it Madonna's exploration of Eastern influences.
I just have a serious fascination with the world of geisha right now, and it's got nothing to do with my daughter.
Every time she needs to reinvent herself, she manages to do it, from the sexy kind of symbolism that she brings with her clothing to this more sophisticated glamour now. I mean, she's ever changing.
More than any popular artist before her, she's displayed a unique ability to extract every last drop of money-making potential from one bandwagon before making a timely leap onto the next one. While Joni Mitchell once famously commented that Madonna has knocked the importance of talent out of the arena, she had to acknowledge she's made a lot of money and become the biggest star in the world by hiring the right people. In 2006 alone, Forbes magazine put her income at an incredible $72 million. Much of that had been earned off the back of her controversial Confessions tour, upsetting the Vatican once again by singing from a revolving crucifix encrusted with mirrors. Calls to cancel concerts only increased the publicity and assured her of sell-out stadium gigs across the globe. After striking PR gold with that stunt, it was another year before Madge hit the headlines again. This time, the column inches were dedicated to her attempts to adopt a baby boy from Malawi. Controversy erupted over claims she was trying to get around Malawian law by not residing in the country for a year. Then came claims from the boy's father that he had not consented to the adoption. Had they told us that Madonna wanted to adopt my son, we would not have agreed to let him go forever. It would have been good that he continues staying at the orphanage, because I see no reason why my child should be given away for good. Madonna's adoption of David Banda was finalised in May 2008. Ironically, by this time, her 8-year marriage to Guy Ritchie was in trouble, amid rumours that she was carrying on an affair with US baseball hero Alex Rodriguez. For once, Madonna seemed a little shy of the spotlight. After making a career out of making headlines, she was now feeling the backlash.
I think it's hard for all of us. I think, you know, being famous and, you know, being in the public eye all the time and the pressure of that and pressure of people's expectations can weird you out, you know what I mean? And I think a lot of people compensate for that kind of pressure by doing things that are self-destructive or they start to believe the hype, you know what I mean? And I do think you have to work at staying real and surround yourself with people who are.
That's certainly no picnic for a woman whose personal fortune has been estimated at somewhere around $400 million. constantly having to wade through crowds of gold diggers and hangers-on to get to the real people must no doubt take its toll. Not that anyone was attaching either of those labels to her outgoing husband in late 2008.
He will be entitled to claim some kind of compensation if his career has taken a bit of a backseat to hers. And he may get a few million. He may be entitled to a half share of the main homes that they have here and in America. But I suspect the figures are more likely going to be sort of 10 to 15 plus a million.
In fact, he ended up getting around 5 times that amount when you take into account the value of their country home in Western England. But who's counting? Guy's payout came to less than Madge has proved she can still earn over the space of a year. And having just passed 50, there's no sign that the Queen of Pop is about to hang up her leotard and crucifix.
I don't see it coming anytime soon, but, you know, you never know. If I stop loving what I do, that's when I stop doing it.
Back in 2001, while William J. Clinton may still have loved being president, he had no choice but to pack his bags and leave the White House. The 2-term limit imposed on US heads of state forced him to make way for George W. and find new ways of making himself useful.
Mr. President, I have a very important question for you. What does a former Mr. President do?
Well, Cammie, one of the things I do is talk to people about things that are important to them, about things that will make a difference in their lives.
Oh, yes? Well, I do that also. I like to talk to people about my school and my friends and my favorite things. Oh, and I also talk to them about HIV and AIDS.
Me too, Cammie. Talking and listening and helping people to learn about HIV and AIDS are two of the things I do a lot.
Really? Well, I also like to talk about my feelings with my friends and family when I am feeling sad or scared.
And I like to talk to parents about how important it is to listen to their children and how to help to take care of each other.
Yes.
Life after the Oval Office also gave the man dubbed the first rock and roll president more time to dedicate to his love of music. And he ended up compiling a CD of some of his favorite tracks under the title The Bill Clinton Collection, selections from the Clinton Music Room.
We are taking suggestions, but ultimately and finally it will be the president's decision. He'll pick the songs, but we welcome suggestions.
One glaring omission was the song that was played at nearly every Clinton campaign event.
The first song I would have expected to see on the record, of course, is Don't Stop by Fleetwood Mac.
Instead, Bill chose to show his softer side, choosing a laid-back jazz mix featuring tracks by the likes of Miles Davis, Nina Simone and Judy Collins. But it wasn't just for fun. All proceeds from the CD went to the William J. Foundation, which distributes funds to charitable causes. Then, of course, there was a book about his life, for which he was reportedly paid $10 million. Dying to know more about him, fans couldn't wait to get their hands on My Life.
We've been here since about 12:30 last night. Myself, I happen to love the guy. Always did. His personal life is his personal life. My time, I think he was the best president that we ever had.
While that particular fan couldn't have cared less about what his hero got up to in private, plenty of others were slavering to get the inside track on the scandal that had dominated most of his second term. With former Judge Kenneth Starr on his tail to investigate the 1993 suicide death of Deputy White House Counsel Vince Foster and Bill's Whitewater land transactions, some rather nasty allegations fell out of the woodwork. First, there were claims by Paula Jones that she had been sexually harassed by Bill while he was governor of Arkansas, which he strenuously denied. During the deposition in the Jones lawsuit, he was then asked whether he had more recently had sexual relations with former White House intern Monica Lewinsky. Once again, he went into denial mode, only to be boxed into a corner by the production of a blue dress complete with alleged semen stains from one of his non-sexual encounters with Monica. The game was up. Bill came clean and ended up being impeached on charges of perjury, obstruction of justice, and abuse of power. He was acquitted on February 12, 1999. And despite the fact that he'd been caught out lying to the public as well as the grand jury, he left office 2 years later with the highest approval rate of any president since World War II.
I'm really not interested in his private life. I think he was a wonderful president. He brought us all a great sense of our country being a great and good place to live, and we felt grateful to be Americans.
Whether or not his wife, Hillary Rodham, felt the same, she stood by her man and was well entitled to call in the favour and win his wholehearted backing for her own presidential campaign in 2008. Oprah Winfrey hasn't quite had to weather the kind of storm whipped up by Kenneth Starr against Bill Clinton, but she has had to fend off her own share of slurs and rumours over the years. Quoted as saying, "My feet are still on the ground, I'm just wearing better shoes," she probably didn't get to be the world's most powerful entertainer without stepping on a few toes. Thankfully, however, her billionaire budget affords her the luxury of keeping a very proactive legal team close to hand. In 2007, they leapt into action after it was revealed that the talk show mogul's 74-year-old dad was penning a tell-all book about her. The Inquirer interview, in which Vernon dropped the bomb, quoted him as saying his daughter was an out-of-hand, unruly child who should have been physically punished more harshly. Not surprisingly, Oprah's lawyers moved in, and the book was reportedly put on hold. Earlier in the year, she'd had to contend with the news that another greedy relative had pocketed $19,000 for telling the world that she'd had a baby at 14. After living with that secret for nearly 40 years, Oprah allegedly cried for 3 days before finding some relief in being able to talk openly about her abusive childhood and the promiscuous adolescence that led to her teenage pregnancy. Tragically, her child died shortly after birth. The fact that she's never had any children since, despite being the most eligible singleton in the world, has given rise to persistent rumours about her sexuality. The length of her engagement to Stedman Graham has added fuel to the flames, as has the closeness of her relationship with best friend Gayle King. In an attempt to end the speculation, she declared on her talk show that what had upset her most over her career were the rumours that she was a lesbian. While that announcement did little to quell the rumours, it did succeed in offending her legions of gay fans and may have contributed to her show being knocked off the top slot by openly gay talk host Ellen DeGeneres. On the other hand, the woman voted the world's most powerful celebrity by Forbes magazine in 2005, 2007 and 2008 may just have had a few too many things on her plate. As well as the talk show, there was the book club, the magazine, the website, and Colour Purple the musical, which drew an A-list crowd of fans to its opening in 2005.
How incredible is this? I mean, for anybody that has seen the movie, you just really felt that it was just so groundbreaking and how our culture changed and everything like. And for Oprah Winfrey, only Oprah Winfrey could do this, bring it to Broadway, and I'm sure we're going to be blessed once again.
The show was pretty well received by critics. Not that Oprah stood still long enough to hear the applause. She'd already set her sights on the next big mountain to climb, the challenge of starting up her own radio station.
This is another milestone, full circle moment for me because I started out in radio when I was 16 years old.
The 24-hour-a-day channel, called Oprah and Friends, features shows hosted by her and a collection of popular personalities from her television show, including best friend Gayle King, fitness expert Bob Greene, and poet Maya Angelou. Adding a radio station to the media empire, which also includes her magazine O, Oprah still had plenty of time and energy left over for philanthropic projects, such as opening the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls in South Africa.
Girls who are educated are less likely to get diseases like HIV and AIDS. And because AIDS is a pandemic in this country, I believe that we have to begin to change the pandemic by education.
The $40 million academy aimed to give girls from deprived backgrounds a quality education in a country where schools are struggling to overcome the legacy of apartheid.
This has been a long time coming. This is not just for me some small idea. This is a supreme moment of destiny for me. I've been coming to this day my entire life.
Unfortunately, however, Oprah's supreme moment of destiny was soon to turn into her darkest hour. Less than a year later, reports emerged that a matron at the school had sexually abused some students. A devastated Oprah hopped straight on the plane to South Africa to investigate and tearfully begged forgiveness from the girls' parents. The matron was subsequently sacked and charged with assaulting 6 students. Unlike some of his influential contemporaries, entrepreneur and adventurer Richard Branson has so far managed to steer clear of any personal controversy in the press. No illegitimate babies, no stained dresses, no special favours to beauty queens, and no inappropriate religious symbolism. Perhaps that's because in between looking after all of his business and philanthropic interests, saving the planet, and breaking world records, there simply isn't any time left for getting into trouble. According to his mum, Eve, he could never sit still.
Well, Richard was so crazy that I'm amazed he only broke one leg, I mean, if you brought up a son like Richard, you would have just as much trouble. Oh. Anyhow, it was great fun. Never a dull moment, and he's kept it up ever since.
The Uber entrepreneur started up his first 2 ventures at the age of 15, although his attempts at growing Christmas trees and raising budgerigars failed to get off the ground. Since then, his Virgin empire has helped him become Britain's 6th richest man, with a personal fortune estimated at between £2 and £4 billion, and a 74-acre island in where else but the British Virgin Islands. These days, he can afford to plough plenty of his fortune into giving back to the community. As well as lending his name and know-how to the Branson School of Entrepreneurship in Johannesburg, he also heads up Virgin Unite, the not-for-profit arm of his Virgin Group that supports a wide range of charity projects, from helping homeless children in the US to providing supplies and training to indigenous people in Morocco. At a recent big-name benefit in New York, Eve shed some light on Richard's early development as a philanthropist.
Well, I think with Richard, he's crazy, as you know, I never allowed him to think about himself. And when he was a little boy, if he looked shy, I said, "You shy? You're thinking of yourself. Don't dare think of yourself." So he was always made to think of outside people.
Able to call on the wallets and goodwill of a bewildering array of celebrities, everyone was singing his praises.
Because what he does is incredible, and it's always great when you get to meet people in this industry or people who have lived fortunate lives who turn that around and actually look outside from themselves and try and give something in return, and especially the way he does it, where it really, he causes change.
Richard's great. You meet a lot of people that are very successful businessmen, and they act and behave like successful businessmen, and he really acts a lot more like an artist. He's a very creative thinker. He reminds me of a hippie, actually.
But we'll get some dirt on him yet.